Yo, this is huge. If you've been wondering why there's been so much drama with your party over the last few months, this is the explanation. Right, here's Iqbal Mohammed, one of the MPs in the Independent Alliance that set up the steering committee to get your party to conference, at which point the plan is to hand over control to the members. But in this interim period, there's been so much drama, it's completely wrecked the reputation of what's going on. Look, made us look like idiots. And why? Because Zarah Sultana insisted that she would only leave Labour to join your party if she was voted for as co-leader. So this democratic new party, right, that's supposed to be for the members, by the members, Zarah Sultana was insisting she would only be part of it. She would only leave her cushy position in Labour, this genocidal, right-wing, authoritarian Labour government. She was only willing to leave that party if she was automatically placed as leader, or as co-leader of your party. Absolutely ridiculous. It has been Zarah Sultana that has made all of the problems over the last few months when the Independent Alliance put out a roadmap saying that sign-ups would happen in September, right? So at that point, there's about a week and a half left in September. So it was imminent for the sign-ups to begin. 3 days later, Zarah Sultana decided to mirror the sign-up portal and send people to an unauthorized URL, which was linked to the MOU. This is the company that was holding the donations for your party until your party was registered with the Electoral Commission. That happened on September 30th. So at that point, those donations should have started to go over to your party limited. But Zarah Sultana, now being the sole director of MOU, is refusing to release all the funds, citing legal liabilities that need to be dealt with. Those liabilities would not exist if Zarah Sultana had not taken it upon herself to send people to that fake sign-up URL, which potentially was breaching GDPR because she did not have legal rights to the data that was used in that sign-up process. And for the last several months, she's been going around acting as if she is already the leader of this party before there's even been a vote by members, declaring who is and isn't welcome in your party, using very divisive rhetoric, taking swipes at her fellow MPs in the Independent Alliance, right? Using Parliament to take pot shots at Adnan Hussein, for example, when she introduced an early day motion to prevent MPs from being landlords. Now, that might be a perfectly good idea, but why did she never introduce that motion before now, while she was an MP in Parliament? She did it at this point because she was using it to take a cheap shot at Adnan Hussein, who she was having a bit of a sparring match with over several things. So Zarah Sultana insisting that she would be co-leader of this initiative as a condition for leaving Labour, right? Who is Zarah Sultana? What has she ever done? I'd never heard of her until this stuff, right? Jeremy Corbyn, on the other hand, built the largest, most progressive opposition this country has seen in living memory, tripled the Labour membership, right? The highest vote share increase since World War II in 2017. And despite 4 years of sabotage from without and from within, managed to galvanise a opposition, and the appetite for his manifesto in this country was huge. And of course, it only collapsed because of sabotage from Keir Starmer and his right-wing allies within the PLP, which forced a second EU referendum into the Labour manifesto in 2019 at the last minute. That's why the Labour vote tanked in 2019, not because of Corbyn, not even because of all the smears and lies. The polling was holding steady until they placed that EU referendum policy, which they knew would be a kamikaze policy and destroy the Labour vote in the North and in the Midlands. Because the North and the Midlands didn't want a second EU referendum, and Corbyn knew this, and Corbyn tried to hold out against that sabotage. So maybe he's got quite a keen eye for saboteurs, right, for fifth column. Maybe he was cautious about Sultana and saw her power plays early on. And everything she's done since then has absolutely been in line with this egotistical, right, drive of her to be placed at the centre of your party, to be placed as leader. And, fine, if she gets leadership, because there's A lot of people are hyping her up, right? If she does become leader, let's see what happens. Because if she starts to centre things like identity politics, let's see how wide the appeal of your party spreads. When you send your activists into market squares in towns up and down this country, right, and expect your party members to tell people, oh, women can have penises, yeah, perfectly normal. Men can give birth, yeah. Let's see how far you get. That's just one example, of course, but this preoccupation with transgenderism is severely misguided. Just to name one problem with Sultana's focus recently. And that is a failure to recognise that transgenderism is actually very conservative. It's actually very regressive, because they're out there telling gender non-conforming kids that they were born in the wrong body. And just because they don't feel like they fit with contemporary social norms, that must mean you were born wrong. And you need medication and surgery to fix that so that you can conform to the other set of norms associated to the sex that you are not. Do you see how regressive this is? I mean, it was the Tories that first brought self-ID to Parliament, quickly rode back from it when they obviously realised there was no support whatsoever amongst their voter base, right? But they did that, but just long enough to drop a bomb amongst the left, and we've been arguing about that ever since. It is not progressive, and in fact, transgenderism is antithetical to Marxist materialism, which places import on the physical world above the conceptual realm. It says that change comes from the physical world. It does not come from the conceptual realm, okay? And so this is antithetical to Marxist materialism, and transgenderism is anti-revolutionary because it lacks a class focus. It ignores women as a class. It does not recognise women as a class that had to fight for their rights and for equality, which of course still isn't achieved, but that's been an ongoing fight for several hundred years. And transgenderism completely ignores women as a class. So it is counter-revolutionary. This identitarianism lacks no class focus and is actually very regressive. The more progressive take is to say, kids, express however you wish. Boys can wear pink. Girls can climb trees and play football. It's all absolutely fine. Express yourself, break down those restrictive social norms. But that does not mean that your physical reality can change just because of your clothing choices or hobbies, right? There is still something called physical reality, and sometimes that matters when curating society. And it matters for reasons of safety and fairness, not because it's a judgment on anybody's life choices. Bit of a rabbit hole I went down there on the trans stuff, but that is just one example of the misguided bourgeois, fake progressive focus that Zarah Sultana has, and the people around her as well. I'm not saying that's anything that Jeremy Corbyn was thinking about, but he was obviously savvy to Sultana's insistence that she be placed automatically as leader before she even started to get involved, which is absolutely ridiculous. What has she ever done? You know, Corbyn deserves that position and can be trusted to hold that position in the interim as leader because he has the track record. It was his name being dropped, which is when everybody started getting excited about your party. They say, oh, Corbyn's involved. That is when your party managed to get a huge amount of donations that have been ring-fenced by the MOU, counter to a agreement made in July, which was that as soon as the Your Party Limited was set up, as soon as the party was registered with the Electoral Commission, then the MOU would hand over those donations to your party, but it hasn't done that. It's told the MPs in the Independent Alliance that it must take over directorship of MOU. That wasn't the plan, and it's just one example of the shenanigans that have occurred. Others, of course, being the letter that Sultana put out insulting her fellow MPs in the Independent Alliance, making threats and accusations, and a lot of drama besides. So an absolute shit show, but this does not surprise me at all. Zarah Sultana cannot be trusted. She is in this for her own ego, not for the many.